my terrible face here because I know I look like shit. Never mind, there we go, no filter. So, sorry about the lighting, sorry about the poor setup. Let's have a chat about Delphi, YouTube. This channel is an entertainment channel. It's for entertainment purposes. Of course, it's my opinion because that's what I do. I come on and give my opinion, and that's it. I don't know how to get rid of these things down at the bottom of my screen. Start a poll. Well, we could do that, couldn't we? Excuse me while I just tap a few things here. And how do I get rid of these fucking things? Riveting, isn't it? Let me try. What do I push? If anyone can tell me how to get rid of the little options for filters, let me know, because it's sitting down the bottom of my screen, very distracting. Anyway, so it's just my opinion. If I talk about things that are elsewhere on YouTube, it's because they are elsewhere on YouTube. It is content that has been put out. It is content that is in videos existing on YouTube, and I will mention it. So recently, so on 11th, I imagine where you guys are in America. So it would have been already the 12th here, but Richard Allen's jury sat out for 19 hours, which is a decent amount of time, and you might expect 19 hours because of how many days of trial they had sat through. And how can I get rid of this? I just have no idea. All right, goodbye, guy from India. Okay. See you later. So, after 19 hours of deliberation, because, you know, there's been about a month of trial, I think, from jury selection to the end, they've come back with a guilty on all 4 counts verdict. Okay, so we're waiting for sentencing, and that's going to be an hour or so. Go away, okay? This isn't for you, okay? Piss off. So, two counts of felony murder, 2 counts of murder for the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Okay, so anyone watching this, other than random people dropping in on any live that they find, they will know all about that. I did post, and I do regret the, how do I block? Why can't I block you? There you go. So, I posted a few hours before they came back. I said, you know, I'm looking forward to guilty verdict. And, you know, not really the vernacular I could have used because it sounded so gleeful, and I definitely don't feel gleeful or, hi Fran, how are you? Yeah, I wish I had my notes. I made a few notes of just, you know, I had like 12 topics. I left them somewhere. And gosh, I'm going to be busy hiding dickheads, aren't I? So, but it's to be expected. So what did you think about, look, I'm so annoyed because I've got this fucking, see, like, that's awesome. I've got this filter thing stuck at the bottom of my screen and I want it to, no filter, I want it to fuck off, but I don't know how to, like, get rid of it. It's so annoying. I think the case was lacking but relieved at the verdict. Yeah, I think, I don't know if I'm relieved as such. I'm not surprised. I don't know why, but I thought there are a few things that were not because of the good lawyering, but simply because of Richard Allen himself. And I thought they're going to come back with guilty. But, you know, I haven't whooped. I'm not whooping. I'm not, you know, woohoo, or feeling, I'm not thrilled about it. I'm not crying and weeping with joy and relief and things like that. I mean, I'm feeling pretty flat about it, although I'm thinking a lot of how people that are actually touched by it, you know, I'm thinking about how they're feeling. You think he's guilty, yeah. Richard Allen himself, frankly, you know, what that must feel like for, you know, a person when that gavel comes, you've read the verdict, your verdict is read, it's that you're guilty, and you know that you're not going out to breathe the air or to have freedom of any kind, but that you're going straight back to, you know, back to a hellhole, really, isn't it? Prison, you know, I would do terribly in prison. How the families of the girls must be feeling, you know, and what they're going through right now, what all the people involved in the case either side are going through and feeling. You know, the people that are truly touched, you know, I'm a voyeur of these cases that I follow, right? It's not my place. It wouldn't feel very authentic to cry and whoop and, oh, you know, I don't know those girls. I've never met them. I've never met their family. I'm not from Delphi, you know, so I don't want to be inauthentic. And I kind of feel like saying, looking forward to a guilty verdict was a little bit close to the bone, more than I intended anyway. But what was it? It wasn't the lawyering, it wasn't the facts, it wasn't the evidence presented. So for me, it's more unscientific. Okay, this is so weak, but for me, his daughter on the stand, that was what a foolish move. The prosecution should have realized, you know, they needed a little bit more thought to go into who went on the stand and who was left off. Sorry, excuse my voice. I feel terrible. I sound terrible. People hate my voice as it is. And now it's all sort of croaky and reedy. I had wanted to get up this morning hoping for a clear, beautiful day like we had a couple of days ago. We've been having so many thunderstorms and I wanted to get up, go to the pool, have, you know, half-hour swim in the Olympic pool, do some sunbathing, you know, just feel like shake a few things out of my body and my mind and then come back home and do this live. But it didn't happen that way. Why I think it was a mistake was then the jury got to see, Fran, that Brittany had no desire to look at her father. Now, maybe she just didn't want to break down. Maybe she wanted to be strong on the stand. It was pretty clear, just from what I've heard about it. Clearly, I wasn't there. I might have felt differently if I was there. All of us might have, about many things. But sounds like there's a little bit of loathing there, and maybe she's done this as some sort of duty or a parting duty or something. I can't explain how I felt, but I know from when we've been able to watch other cases or even have audio, we know that when supportive daughters and sons are on the stand, or even, the interaction between parents and children, no matter who's on the stand and no matter if they're guilty or not, they call things out to each other. I mean, that they risk being in contempt of court. They blow kisses. They cry and they look over and they moat with their eyes. And I think it's pretty clear there's some sort of contempt or loathing or fear or hatred or just something that did not sound supportive. And I'm not even bothering to relate this back to anything that Richard Allen might have been saying from prison. And the questioning wasn't much, was it? It was just very perfunctory, and I wonder what they intended the outcome to be, what the reason was behind bringing her up, because the power in bringing her up would have been to have her come on as the grieving daughter who just has absolute faith in her father, where you can see that love and that bond, Hello, Kit. Oh my God, Kit. I wish we could speak together, and I'd love to be able to have a physical conversation with someone that's used to talking on YouTube, and we can just sit and. This is so hard, isn't it, Kit? Don't you find it easier when you're on a live but I don't have StreamYard or Streamlabs, any streaming service like that. I know YouTube now has got some sort of, I could set it up, but I'd have to set it up in advance and email people and things, wouldn't I? But we'll plan it, we'll plan it. Maybe if you can plan it to do it on your channel, and I'll just call in. We'll have a little chit chat. I'd love to talk to Mel from Cold Truth as well on her channel and sit and have a discussion, because I know how scattered and things these are. I actually recorded an hour-long video to post instead of doing this live. I don't know why I didn't post it. I think because it would have been hours to upload and I just couldn't be bothered and all of that. So, daughter appearing on stand. The way that Richard Allen had, it is a fact he had changed his timeline. I've got a lot of questions about this whole entire case. None of it is satisfactory, in my opinion. I've got a theory about Brad Weber that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about something called the sympathetic victim, and how where people fall on this scale affects the devastating way they might be treated. It affects the way that they are viewed, and how they get opened up to either this outpouring of love or this outpouring of hate, which we obviously have in this story, with families being accused in all sorts of ways, even if it's obliquely through what Mothballs is still saying even today, is because of race baiting, or, disloyalty to, what's the term? And it's just, all so much bullshit. And, also I want to talk a little bit about how data points have not been connected in a satisfactory way, to the point where you just think, are people moronic, lazy? Why aren't things done, certain things done? And that's left a lot of people very dissatisfied and uncertain, and that's only going to fuel uncertainty in the future, because you can't go back and say, but see how when this was happening and proven, you've got evidence that strengthens that and ties it in, locks it in, and those things weren't done. I'm not explaining this very well. And you've got a lot of lies that are spread, so out of truths, and they're connected purposefully wrongly. So you've got fact that Holman did go and study the reed technique. So, and then you've got people, of course, that will talk about how, Alan was under a lot of pressure. The reed technique was used on him. Alan confessed to the murders, and they make it out as if in some of his interviews or interrogations, if you will, they make out that whilst under reed technique interrogation, Alan confessed, and that's absolutely the opposite of what happened. He never confessed under those circumstances or in any interviews, and we'll never know how those went down, will we? I guess maybe he did, and then those things were lost. Was that talked about though? No, that wasn't in the PCA, was it? And maybe it all had to be kept hush-hush, who knows, but maybe it just didn't happen, right? Because that would have strengthened an arrest, okay, to get the confession, it would have strengthened. So for example, if they had asked Alan in for an interview, as they did, and they were talking to him, and he's confessed, and then it's discovered that, in that interview they were using reed technique tactics, that would play one way, wouldn't it? But same as if when he was just being interviewed before arrested and he actually confesses, so that would be wanting to be put into a probable cause affidavit, wouldn't it? But it wasn't. So, that's just, those things don't serve truth and justice, the things that people say they're about. Due process. They say they're about due process, and in the next breath they're talking about Alan is innocent. So, these are two separate things. So, the sympathetic victim. So the sympathetic victim is, I guess, is just a human nature phenomenon or whatever, right? So we want our victims of crime, and our victims of crime it's not just the person, say, who has been scammed or murdered. It's their families, it's the people around them that are left standing in the aftermath to face trying to find a culprit, and to face trying to bring the culprit to justice. And so in this case, that is the Patty family, that is the Williams family, I guess. And sorry, fucking flies. I've had to open the door and let dog in and out, and the flies are coming in. They drive me crazy. It's nothing drives me more crazy. So the sympathetic victim, we want our victims to be people that we can really trust and get behind and exalt and emote with, and we want them to be perfect. And as Becky Patty says herself, you know, you've got to be perfect. You've got to say the right things at the right time. And, you know, and then, you know, these voyeurs that were looking for chinks, looking for the chips, looking for the way in to flip things around and to be hateful, because, you know, we want our victims to be entirely trustworthy, entirely, we want them to deserve, you know, we think that they need to deserve our sympathy and our support. And if they're not perfect, then, hey, you know, things get flipped around very quickly. So they can be suffering just as much as people that don't have records, right? So when we look at the Patty family, you know, I hate the comments when, oh, these girls just came from just this, they were taken from these safe, loving, wonderful homes and then just slaughtered and left, and this is just so not right. And that's kind of, they're kind of talking about victimology a little bit, right? And it's just not the case at all, actually. And I probably, when I write these comments, people probably hate the replies to these comments that I type up because they don't sound very caring and loving. Well, I mean, they're not. I do judge. I do judge because they didn't actually have this low victimology. Libby, for example, she's on social media, many platforms, not just one where she is supervised and there are checks and balances in place. She was on several social media platforms, many of them with reputations for harboring predators, and she was on those platforms from 11 years old. On one of them, her tagline was "single looking to mingle." She's 11, and she had unchecked access to the internet. Predators had unchecked access to Libby and to Kelsey, and I would not be surprised if Kelsey hadn't been a victim already of Anthony's shots. And that raises questions and worries and concerns. Although, you know, Anthony shots, Keegan Klein, that was voted to be, well, that was that a lemony motion or whatever, to be left out of the trial. Does that seem right? I guess because it couldn't be proven that Rick Allen had been in contact with the girls through social media, catfishing or however. So it was able to be considered not relatable to the case. But she wasn't safe in that regard. She hadn't been safe as a young child. She grew up in a domestic violence circumstance. You know, children are considered victims of domestic abuse when it doesn't have to be directed to them with physical harm, with the anger and vitriol being directed at them. It's accounted for when parents are unstable, unwell, and unsuitable, when they are fighting, when there is drug use, when there is felonious activity. And, you know, let's face it, Kelsey's got this little sister. She's old enough to understand and to remember a lot. She will remember. You know, you wonder why Sheriff or ex-Sheriff Tobe Leesenby would be maybe seemingly a little bit negative towards Carrie Timmons. Well, the reason is because he's probably gone to, "Hi, Merva. Hello, how are I'm sorry I'm not doing a great job of this then. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being here. I hope you're okay. So, yeah, it's hard to find a time to go live that suits anyone at all. So I just do it when I can. And then, you know, if it's the middle of the night somewhere or, oh, well, so be it. She can remember these things. And, you know, who knows? It was probably Tobe who was sometimes maybe arresting people that are supposed to be in charge of these two little girls, Kelsey and Liberty. Okay. Methamphetamine use, dealing. Parents ruled as, hey Mark, unsuitable parents, not able to be in charge of raising their own children, losing custody. If guardianship has gone to, it doesn't matter if it's a family member or someone else, but guardianship's gone to Becky, the maternal grandmother, and her husband Mike Patty, so he's a step-grandfather. Why the fuck is Derek German, who has been ruled an unsuitable parent because he has endangered his little girls? They are neglected. They are party to the parents' drug use, drama, etc., right? And why is this douchebag under the domestic roof of the Patties with his two girls? That should be absolutely illegal. It should be absolutely stopped. This happens too many times. This is what happened in Lilani Simon. Her trials, she's been found guilty of killing her middle child, her son Quinton Simon. She just brutally beat him up, killed him, threw him in the trash. What the hell was she doing living under the domestic roof of her mother, Billy Joe, who had guardianship? These, you know, it's generational problems that create the suffering of these children, frankly. It's generations. It's systematic dickheadness, you know. Why are you doing your son a favor? Didn't you say, hey, I'm going to raise these children because you couldn't and you've been deemed unfit? Why is he even around them? Why is he going to the bridge to pick her up? Is that part of some sort of arrangement legally through the courts? That he's responsible in any way? What's going on? Maybe somebody else going to the bridge to pick the girls up would have actually walked to Monon High Bridge, you know? So, no, these girls didn't come from, you know, and Abby, yes, again, loving family, extended family. She's not living in a nuclear family of sorts. She's got her mum. And that is such a tragedy too, because, you know, she was an only child and it'll probably remain that way. And that is just, how devastating is that? But, you know, again, children with secrets, you know, accounts that mothers don't know anything about and that sort of thing. So I don't think the victimology was low at all. I actually think, you know, it was pretty high. Not only was Derek German under that domestic roof, but Cody Patty was as well. He was a felon. He just got out of jail. Who cares what for? And again, should not have been under that roof. And I don't even think he's a blood relative, even though he's considered some sort of cousin or even a stepbrother because of adoption. And, you know, here's this 25-year-old who sends text messages to his friend about nutting in a 14-year-old girl, you know. So why is this sort of degenerate person, no matter, look, they stick together, they've got a strong bond, they stand up for each other. I wonder how they really feel. I wonder how Kelsey Sybert at the time really felt about a felon coming to move into their home. You know, it was a bit of a full house, wasn't it? With Daddy, you know, so all of these things, they go to, you know, they bring the Paddies down low on the sympathetic victim scale, okay? You know, likability goes a long way with the support that people get. It's just the way it is, and the judgment on victims is extremely high, that it is unfair. And, you know, we can probably all think of people that are the perfect victim. But again, they get brought down very quickly. It's kind of called the tall poppy. It's not really the tall poppy syndrome. It's kind of a cousin of that, right? The tall sunflower syndrome, I don't know. But they can raise high and they can fall. I mean, we've got a lady here called Rosie Batty. She was Australian of the Year at one point because she was campaigning, you know, anti-violence, you know, for rights of parents and all around visitation and things like that. She had separated from a guy who had become really violent to her and her husband, you know, but separated and had fought for custody, but had had to give visiting rights to the father to her son. But he, you know, apparently, I'm not getting this really quite right, but the gist, I think, is that, you know, the ex was making threats to Rosie Batty, stalking her, just all manner of just gross things. And what annoys me is that a woman who said, oh, okay then, come and see your son, we're at cricket, you know, you can come down and see your son. Maybe she thought it was in the open, but he didn't have, I think at the time he didn't have visitation, he was making threats, she was trying to get something done about it with the police, with restraining orders. I think perhaps she had a restraining order on this guy or something. So I do throw blame. She said, okay, come on down and see your son at his cricket game. And this guy took his son a little bit aside and beat him to death with a cricket bat. You know, you can't fight for something that you're not going to stick up for. And it's the same across the board. Okay, that person there was a restraining order, he was making threats, he didn't have custody. Why did you let him see your son in any circumstance? Who cares? You know, I think that is a moment of weakness, or poor decision making. And so to me, she's come down on that sympathetic victim scale, right? Even though she still should be up here. She was, you know, tormented by this husband she just wanted to leave behind. Her son was brutally murdered in front of people, beaten to death by this guy. She's gone through enough. And I think sometimes too, courts think, hey, they've gone through enough, so they're prone to not pressing charges against parents, for example, for neglect, for letting situations happen and that sort of thing. So, you know, to me, you know, the Paddies, they're not sympathetic victims, and so of course they can be accused of all manner of things, right? People feel, you know, these, and of course, Kelsey. So Kelsey, you know, this traumatized girl who was old in a different psychological development phase than Libby was when a lot of this shit was going down with her nuclear family. You know, she'd reached an age where she had gone through what we as human beings, you know, that realization of individuality, that realization of separation from parent, and, you know, that understanding of yourself as an individual being. And would have been a lot more compos mentis, or, you know, imagine, you know, do you think methamphetamine users and people that are out getting arrested for all sorts of driving offences under the influence and things like that, you know, you think they're at home making sure the child even has some baked beans on toast, a nice hot meal, is getting tucked into bed, is reading them stories, you know, getting them dressed for school nice and clean and neat, and waiting for them at the bus stop, making sure they get home okay, conducting their social life for them, ensuring that they have supervised visits with friends and enjoy social. Yeah, no, probably not, right? So, sorry, this is very boring and seemingly quite negative, but this was their life. So Kelsey would have been looking after Liberty quite a lot, Liberty as a toddler, probably making sure Libby ate and was cared for and read to and had company and was kept safe, and when fights were going on, had someone to cuddle her under the blankets and tell stories and things like that. That's what I'm getting at. So the sympathetic victim trope is a very big factor in everything that's gone on here, even though it doesn't matter about all those things. When someone is murdered, these families, no matter who, what, where, how, they are really suffering deeply, and then it's piled onto them. And, you know, no doubt Kelsey and Libby they probably had a lot of attachment issues and, yeah, and psychological issues to get over. Sometimes, you know, if they've got a combination of being doted on and neglected, that's where you get narcissism, or you get all sorts of things, okay? Or, you know, how hard it must be to be well adjusted, and, you know, I think they did pretty well, both those girls. And Kelsey's her own worst enemy. I mean, because Derek German certainly wasn't speaking out and talking up for his daughter and being at the forefront. And sort of Kelsey at 16 going on 17 kind of probably felt like she had to take that mantle because she wanted to be Libby's voice. And the problem is she's a very poor communicator. And that's got her in a lot of trouble. So, yes. So there was that. I don't know if the jury, if this was one of the things that pushed towards the guilty verdict, but certainly I just find it too curious, and that is Richard Allen's missing phone. Now this is where prosecutors and defense, either or, depending on how it would have rolled, they have been very lax and should have tried to do some deeper searching, because the only phone missing out of a lot of phones that Richard Allen's family kept around, the only phone missing is that one with the MEI that he gave, that he was using apparently when he went to the trails on the bridge to look at his stocks, look at the stock ticker. And that's missing. And now, okay, you might say, well, after that, he's just had more modern phones and he hasn't changed a phone over. That could be the case. He might not have changed a phone since he got a new one after that. But the question should have been asked and answered. Oh, you don't have that specific one because it was traded in. Here it is on the documentation from the provider. You got this iPhone 10 or whatever and traded in your iPhone 6, and that gave you a good deal. The figures match up, the paperwork matches up, nothing to see here, move along. Well, can we do that? No, we can't. So that's an issue for me. That is an issue for me. And, you know, did the jury find that very hard to look past? Perhaps they did. And it's that type of lack of data entry points, connections, you know, that I find absolutely infuriating. I don't know how anyone else feels about it. Got one person here, maybe that's Merva, who's fallen asleep, so she should. It's 4:30 in the morning. Over in, would we say, Scandinavia? So then I wanted to talk, the other thing I just wanted to talk about was Brad Weber and my theory on Brad Weber. So my theory on Brad Weber is, I'm not saying this is an absolute a theory that I believe and everything. So we know who Brad Weber is. If you don't, Brad Weber was living at his mother's house, his mother being Kay Weber Sanders. That is the house at the end of the bridge. So the private drive, 625W, that road turns into a private drive. There are gates. It is gated. And there's rural properties along there, and they're coming off the private drive. And Brad Weber's, there's another drive shared with, is it the Liebermans or whatever? There's another gate there for both of those properties at the end. But the Weber property is right at the very end. And so when you cross the bridge from the Monon High Bridge Trail, you would cross the bridge and end up at the Weber property, and it's up on an elevated site above the creek. And you would drop down from the site to the road, private drive, and then down to the creek level. And the drive comes under Monon High Bridge and around to the property. So when you come off the bridge, you would come down, drop left, and then left to be going essentially right. For some reason, these things just are very hard to grasp for people, and they fire up in comment sections. What do you mean you turned? Kelsey said she turned right. What a fucking liar. Oh, if you go right, oh my fucking God. You know, she's just bad at explaining. She did essentially go right. If you go left and then left along the private drive, she's gone to walk down that way towards the Williams home. Anyway, if people would bother looking at Google Maps and things like that and looking up places that they want to talk about, maybe they should do that before they open their mouths or open their fingers. Oh, it's sticky. It's just me across the ditch. Wish I was across the ditch, still sticky. I'd really love to get home. Don't want to be where I am. How are you? And what did you think about the verdict? I'm pretty sure I know that you think guilty is as guilty does. Something like that. So Brad Weber originally had said, so his work, I'm not sure, does he work at a car plant or something? a big site, so out in the same direction perhaps as Packers, which is to the west of the town. Justice serves, there's Sticky. So he said originally, I don't know when, but probably maybe in 2017 when he was interviewed, about this devastating crime that has happened on his doorstep. He has said that he's left work, but he's gone to go and perform some duties of a business that he runs or maybe works for. It's probably his mother's, maintaining ATM machines. I believe that's what was said. And this would mean that instead of leaving and then getting home at around the time the crime was occurring, it would have been later. And, I think... Now, did the defense bring in any proof that they should have been able to find that somehow in some sort of record, right? Yes, that you did. What about car telemetrics? We haven't heard anything about that. Were they a thing in 2017 in the vehicles that were being driven? I don't know. Perhaps not in an old white van, but maybe in Rick Allen's car. Were there no telemetrics? So what I think might have happened is Brad Weber has clocked off at 2:02. Takes, even if you had a kilometre to walk, through the plant and through the car park, get to his van, drive home, the timing would be just right for driving along that private drive under the bridge and going past either Ellen and, the perpetrator, you could say, Ellen and the girls down at the creek side, actually crossing the creek, or even being at the final crime scene site. The timing would be perfect. So here's this guy, he's driving home. Maybe he did see something. And he's not the hero type. He's not the type to get involved. He's not interested in things. It wasn't, okay, the sort of, you'd think you'd be interested that people are on your land. But hey, maybe driving past, he didn't see them then, but as he's parked and he's gotten out of his van, maybe he's seen three figures crossing the creek. Now, like normal people might, did he call out, "Hey, what are you doing?" Or, "Girls, are you all right?" Maybe he didn't notice that they looked panicked or controlled or anything odd. And maybe he thought, oh, it's just a family. They've been exploring. Look, they're leaving now, so I'm not going to do anything about it. But maybe later he realized, wow, looks a little bit douchey. That, he just wanted to keep quiet about it. He didn't want to keep involved. He didn't want to be involved. He didn't want to have to answer questions or be asked, because knowing what people are like, why the fuck didn't you do anything? Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you investigate? Did you go down to the creek side and then maybe possibly you could have heard something? Who knows? And because he doesn't have a reputation as a good person, again, he's also an unsympathetic victim. And so it's quite easy for people to say, hey, he's involved, or he's just lying. Why is he lying? Oh, he's easily bought or something like that. When he's probably telling the truth now, and there's his own reasons for lying originally. And I have a feeling it might be because he didn't want to admit that perhaps he could have done something and he could have stopped the ultimate act occurring. So that's my theory on Brad Weber, is that he wanted to delay the time that he appeared to arrive home. But hey, we should have seen. He connected his Wi-Fi at the Weber house, his phone connected automatically at such and such time. Why didn't the prosecution get that data? Is that just not available all these years later? It should have been gotten in 2017, right? This is stuff that should have been done. Basic plot work that can be used when it's needed, if it's needed, because you've already got the data, you've got it when it's available to you. Now these phone companies, most of them keep things for 5 years, only a couple of them for 7, I think, or vice versa. So in some instances, depending who the providers were, it's just not available anymore. It wasn't available by the time of the arrest of Richard Allen in October 2022, because they only kept for 5 years, but some of them for 7. This infuriates me no end. Why wasn't it just presented? It should have been gathered so that it could be used later, because who knows how it would have been of importance. But you just get it. But perhaps, we've got to get a warrant for this, a warrant for that. It's too much trouble. Well, it shouldn't be too much trouble. Maybe this is just another problem with the justice system, right? Things are different. I've said this point about crime and it being solved before in relation to Delphi and data. But in Australia, police can they can just get, without warrant, they can be provided with like this data grab. It tells you every single phone number that was in an area at the time. They don't have to subpoena any company or anything like that. They just get it. Doesn't mean that they can see anything about that number other than the number and that it was there. They're not seeing information within, but they can see it, and that's how they caught Cleo Smith's abductor, by just this phone number that was there and travelling overnight at the right time from the right place, and they saved this little girl's life. She'd been kept kind of like this guy's own alive doll. So if that could have been done properly, I don't know, there's problems there with coverage, and this opens things up to a whole lot of argument. People find that they can, when there are holes in things, it lets, what do holes do? Let things in, don't they? So yeah, it gives people an in to build, stories around their own beliefs and theories, when things aren't locked in. So disappointing, this whole data gathering. It's the plot work that's been done at the time. And I truly think, though, that these authorities that were investigating, when they came across that scene, I think they thought, and they should have been able to, I think they thought, yeah, we'll have an arrest. We'll have an arrest in a week. We'll know who it is in a week. We'll have an arrest, but this will be done and dusted in a month. We'll have this guy in jail. And they would have too, if, Dan Doolin, the man who, everything he touches turns to cold, so hard to decide. Was it just because he's a total loser, or is there anything darker there about losing that, information? Number one, were they that hard up that a conservation officer is in charge of interviewing people that actually call up and say they were there? Why was that up to him when he couldn't even do the right thing? Maybe an actual competent person would have said, all right, mate, well, thank you. Since you were there, do you mind if I just get the clothing that you wore on the day, take that into evidence? There should have been a proper witness statement taken right then and there, not just a casual conversation with the person manipulating this, conversation, hey, not wanting to be at home, and that sort of thing. Saying, oh, I'm already on my way to the shops. Well, he's 6 minutes from the shops, not an hour, and yet he made a time for an hour's time to talk to this guy in the Save and Spend car park or whatever, But yeah, it would have been done, sorted. It's infuriating, eh? None of this shit would have happened, and there'd be people that would not have 80,000 subscribers if the case had gone differently. I'm sure they would have found another case to make a name on, but sorry, this is really hard, just sitting and just talking away with yourself, like this, especially since I didn't sort of have a synopsis, a script for myself. It's a really awkward, not very enjoyable thing to do. And I'm not very good at it. That is just endlessly frustrating. I think it and what happens is people just, they get beautiful time of year. That's good. We're in storm season here. Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud, talking to Moa, who is currently in the land of the long white pointer. Oh, thanks, Mark. So, Dan Doolan, what a screw up. Case should have been sold. None of this last 7 years should ever have happened. And that's just a fact. If indeed, I mean, maybe at the time, again, if Doolan had done his duty, maybe exculpatory evidence could have been gathered and Alan would never have been arrested, or he would have been arrested and then released. I think that bothers a lot of people. So neither side sort of were able to say, the defense, Alan called his mother, or Alan's mother called him after she had had her lunch at 2:00 and Alan picked up the phone at home. His Wi-Fi connected to his home phone. He was looking at his stock ticket at home on his Wi-Fi. Or, the neighbours, because right at the time they were asked, they remember he was mowing his lawn at 2:30. Or, his car, his car was in the driveway because blah, 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 whatever. Or, hey, after this, he got gas here, they fucked that one up too. There's a receipt for this, he went here. Or, he paid a bill online. He went home Monday. Or, Kathy Allen called him, she always would, halfway through her day, they call each other and, talk about what they're having for dinner and that sort of thing, right? But there was none of that provided, and it's like, was it never gathered, or, did it not tell the right story or something, right? But either side coming up with anything like that, isn't that what you want? That corroborating data that ties up with other data. And, I struggle when things like that are missing. I really do, because to me, that's the meat and potatoes. All the other things seem to be these condiments, and it's very unsatisfying as a meal. So, yeah, the lack of that sort of corroborating evidence to really tell a proper story by either side. If that doesn't infuriate, I just don't want to hear just this rote He went to the bridge, he parked on the thing, he crossed the thing, he walked past 3 girls, and was it 4? And he went past, he's on the bridge and seen on the platform. It was 100 feet away. Tell you what, look, do this too. Oh, thank you for saying that, Mark. Yes, please, thumbs up. Should I give it one myself? Can I? No. I do this thing where I see someone approaching, I'm walking along, they're walking along, I try and guess how tall they are, because I know how tall I am, and I'm so often wrong, and I often think people are so much taller than me. Sometimes they're quite a lot shorter, or they're the same size. I think they're really, really tall. And it's very hard to get right until they're a whole lot closer than 100 feet or 50 feet. Truly. And some people look quite tall and they're 5'4". It does depend a lot on body type. Now, I used to say, gosh, didn't we used to see, wasn't there released a shorter squatter version? Do you know what that was? And I realized when I was looking at Michael Catt's channel the other day, I was watching, I might repost it here, one of his little, I'll put the link up for one of his little walks with Figaro, his little puppy, filmed in the September before his death. So this December will be 3 years. I think, too, we can remember a lot of people that have passed and haven't come to see this day. Ron Logan, okay, for one. Now, people say that he died in 2020. Get it right. He died, I think it was January 24th of 2022. Okay, things like that really bug me. They say that Michael Catt didn't die. I bet he was bridge guy or something like that, right? And just because they don't know his real name. Stroop, okay? And so they investigate. These are the loudmouths, right? Investigators. They can't find something if they don't know it. So they go out and spruik it to the world. They're just telling people they're not very brainy. All right, people are telling people that all the time in comment sections, how fucking stupid they are. Oh, see, there's no way that they could have done this. He could have done this all in 19 minutes because they think now from 213 to 232 that he'd actually, they can't perceive that, or they can't conceive of the notion. I mean that's when you're told that the phone stops moving. So why does your brain immediately go to telling you that the perpetrator wasn't still at the scene? Libby probably hid the phone under the shoe, as well as making, his lips aren't moving. Bridge guy's lips aren't moving. So, hi Mustang. So he can't have been the one talking and saying down the hill because I don't see his lips move. Do they, it's these people that are telling you how stupid they are or how easily manipulated they are by certain people. Okay, because they're just repeating this crap. And the brighter people that know human nature and know that they can infect people with these things, that they'll go out into the world to say they use that knowledge against these people. Please don't be either one of those peoples, okay? So, she's got the phone and she's just quickly behind her and then into her pocket probably. And she's recorded that audio while it's in her pocket. He's got 43 seconds to walk closer from 63 feet away, Abby's probably saying, don't go without me because they've got to get off the bridge and then they're not sure what to do, down the hill or what. And this guy's catching up along the bridge and then when he's near them, he's saying down the hill. okay? And then at 2:14, she's probably tried to get her thumb onto the screen to try and unlock her phone without him seeing, right? And then they've managed to, maybe keep the knowledge of this phone from him by putting it in his shoe. Or, she's stopped him from sort of destroying it, or at least delaying, because, who knows? I don't know. Was this in the cloud? I don't know. But I know there are anomalies that make people uncomfortable. What is this location? I don't know about the artifacts of data. So, for example, if the last time she created a video maybe was at school, or do they drive past school? I don't know. There's 4 seconds, it said. Is that you? Why am I calling out to him? He's deaf. Another thunderstorm, great. So, I don't know how these things work. Apparently there's a problem with the location. 4 seconds at the school and then the rest at the bridge. I don't know anything about that. This is the sort of thing that should have been sewn up by experts. How poor were these experts? It was very underwhelming, wasn't it? This is $4 million. Prosecution and defense do get to share in funding. Okay, defense raised some extra funds to bring in their, what's the other W name? I don't know, to bring in people to say whatever. But yeah, very underwhelming with the experts, with the people that were brought onto the stand. I can understand things like, it makes sense. If there's no inculpatory evidence, so if it can't be proven that Holder, Fields, anybody was actually in the area, they can't be introduced as this sort of third party evidence, because it's not evidence. If there's not evidence if you couldn't, if you couldn't write a PCA and arrest Elvis Fields, why would he be part of Richard Allen's trial? Okay, that does make sense to me, right? Could the prosecution have used the Anthony shots in some way? Well, yeah, I don't know. But perhaps that should have been allowed to have been brought in by the defense. I don't know. But yeah, so underwhelmed by a lot of the holes that were left. But I think, if it wasn't his confessions himself, it was, hey, well, where is your phone data, Richard? Where is that phone? Why does your daughter seem to loathe you? You lied about being there at the time of the murders. You said 12 to 1:30 because, a killer would know that they didn't commit the crime then. And then later you have admitted, maybe because you thought they were going to get phone data and they had some sort of data, or the car was seen on the harvester, Hoosier Harvester camera. I really hope we get to, we the public get to see those images on the Hoover Harvester. I want to see Kelsey's car. I want to see, is it Betsy's car? I want to see Ellen's car. I want to read the transcripts of Ellen in prison. I mean, it's a really dick move to bring up medieval torture by the defense, but at the same time, look, he wasn't having a pleasant time. Ellen was not having a pleasant time. It would have been scary, uncomfortable, stressful, physically uncomfortable as well as psychologically uncomfortable. But you know, it doesn't matter the reason why you are spitting and why you are biting. If you are spitting and biting, people that are just charged, you know, that's their job to work in the prison, they're correctional officers, or they are hired, you know, subcontracted by a firm that sends people in to give prisoners therapy. So imagine if he was trying to bite Wala or someone, not just a CO, you're going to be put in a hood. It's as simple as that. People have a right to be protected from anyone, okay? And if people are kicking, biting, you know, if they're refusing to get up, now people are saying, oh, because he was weighted down with Halidol, you know, but I do think he was refusing to get up. If you're going to refuse to stand, you're going to get tased, okay? Cause and effect. Your actions have consequences. And so maybe this just leads to how fucked up he was, right? And he couldn't make good decisions to keep himself as safe as possible in prison. And I think that can happen to anybody. I would lose my mind. I really would, because, I would not do well at all. I don't know how much mental fortitude I could have. I could try. I could tell myself all the things I would need to do and rules I would need to live by and the things that I would need to do to try to keep my mental strength and things like that. But I'm not resilient. I don't have that sort of resilience. I'm not very good with people, and I would be very open and vulnerable to being very mistreated. I'm probably going to piss people off. I will actually go into psychosis. Because with my mental, with the scale of where I am on things, stressful situations are really dangerous. And a psychotic state it's a protective mechanism. Even if you go into another type of hell, right? You're psychotic because what's happening, because your reality is you're under threat, or you think you're under threat. You're in a stressful situation, a threatening situation, or, you know, there is always some causation, of course. You don't just lose your mind for no reason, or gain another mind. So the Sticky Wicket says, do you think Alan will admit to what he did after sentencing for the 62nd time? You know, when criminals do, let's just say, it goes through the appeals process and eventually he ends up in jail, because let's just say it's unsuccessful, he ends up in jail for a 130-year sentence. Even criminals in that situation, when they start talking, they never, ever, ever tell the full truth, even if they're talking about the crimes and what they did. We will never know. Sorry. I kind of, we just want to know, right? We want to know, but then I think we shouldn't. I don't think anyone really wants to know. You don't really want to imagine it. It's probably better to be quite abstract with what those girls went through. And it infuriates me. So many things are infuriating me, right? That people say, they didn't scream, they didn't run, they didn't do that. Have they never had the bejesus scared out of them so much that they are in, it's not just flight, fight, fawn, it's flight, fight, freeze. Freeze is in there for a reason. This is a known phenomenon to danger, to threat, and to a stressful thing. It happens in all animals. Lots of animals have really interesting protective mechanisms. One of them in human beings is psychosis. Another of them are these 4Fs. And some of you know that one of my jobs is dog training. And, I teach my clients, they've got to learn to read their dog's body language. And dogs aren't primates. We're primates. We are verbal. Dogs are canines. They operate on pheromones, okay? And we have a bridging language, and our body language is entirely different to dog body language, but it is a bridging language. We need to recognize what our dog is telling us with fight, flight, freeze, and fidget. And if you can do that, you can have understanding with your dog. Mark Klein, his attorneys will tell him to keep his mouth shut, in my opinion. They will try to appeal. Yeah, they won't want him talking to anyone or doing anything, of course. And does a gag order apply to to the prisoner as well as the jurors and the lawyers and everything? I don't know. But after everything, but yes, certainly not before. But we're never, of course they're going to say, shut up, let us handle it. But hey, he put his faith in them, didn't he? Well, maybe he was forced to. Maybe he was forced out. I don't know. Look, I mean, there has to be a plea on offer to accept a plea deal, doesn't there? Maybe there was no plea deal offered or ever going to be offered. It was always going to court. But maybe he didn't even want to go through trial, and now maybe he does just want it to be over and he doesn't want the appeals. But I don't know. Psychopaths are funny creatures, right? If he's killed these girls, I mean, he's a psychopath. So who knows? You might think, why not? What have I got to lose? And it's more time out of getting in and out of jail, and it's action, and it's people paying me attention, and I'm not quite at the point of rotting away. Yeah. But eventually, when people talk, people should realize, you know what a memoir is, even, right? It doesn't have to be written by a criminal. A memoir is that person's one-sided story. There's always porkies, okay? And even as an example, this is fiction, but even as an example, Memoir of a Geisha. I was so furious with that movie because it just painted, it didn't tap into that nuance. It didn't tap into the reality of that girl being quite the bitch when she needed to be or wanted to be. And they took it very face value. They took the face value flat words off the page, and they weren't reading between those amazingly written lines, where to me it was actually very, very clear what a memoir means. And that means, hey, I'm going to tell you what I want you to know. And whenever people confess, they tell you what they want you to know. When people confess, they also throw in a whole lot of crap that means nothing. And we know this over and over again. So that's not pointing to his innocence and just, confessing because he wants the torture to be over, or because he's under duress, that he's coerced. It's not pointing to that at all. That is just a completely normal phenomenon, that when people are confessing, that it's not, or it doesn't matter what it to is and why. And sometimes it's the smallest little lies, but no, there's always falsities. Also, people that malinger, like Richard Allen do, these are the worst predators. These pity party predators, they're the worst. They're really manipulative. It's how they live their life. So, here we've got this dependent personality, and he manipulates his wife their entire marriage. No, they're not high school sweethearts, people, but soon after, maybe around 21, they had 3, 4, 5 years separate from each other, right? I think they're in their early 20s, maybe, so maybe they knew each other from 19, 20, but, they weren't in school, high school sweethearts, like some people think, and like that has any meaning with it. But no, these relationships, these dependent, codependent relationships, they don't get better. They don't find an even keel over time where there's less and less abuse because they've just got a better understanding. The psychological abuse becomes worse, and I think we've really seen that play out in real time between Kathy Allen and Rick Allen. And I think he tells you right then and there, do you love me? I mean, when I've been psychotic and thinking, I'm the worst person in the world and I've done all sorts of things which, hadn't done, I'm telling people, there is no way you can love me, This guy, he's like the Weinstein of the common garden variety criminal. You've got one in showbiz and you've got one that works at Walmart, right? So they're the ones that malinger. They are so highly manipulative. They're dry. It's just comes natural. And so all throughout their life, they've got someone, it's that bonded pairing, and that person is fixing their boo-boos, but also sticking like glue. They were together everywhere, weren't they? He was never down the pub on his own, always with that social lubricant, always with the wife, and just a very toxic, unhealthy dynamic that only gets worse over time. The ante only gets higher. What you have to fix gets worse and worse and worse as the elements of that psychology, his id and everything become more and more, they're gathering more and more energy, and his, all of those veils are just taken down one by one until he's completely bare as himself. Murder, right? Can't fix that one. And so that it was culminating before, wasn't it? 2015, absolutely out of control, going into some sort of psychiatric facility for treatment and rehabilitation from alcohol misuse. And so things were on that downward spiral, and just someone just sort of trying to just keep the peace, keep things good with Rick, and people think that, see, this happens a lot too, and it really confuses people that don't understand things deeply enough. How many times have you seen a couple and you think, oh fuck, she is a fishwife? Now that's a horrible term, right? But I've had people use that particular term to describe, oh fuck, she's a nag, or oh my god, she's impossible, oh shit, she's bossy, how does he put up with that? Look, she just barks orders and he does this and that and the other. And they think that a woman is not, if they're exerting or showing any sort of dominant behavior or bossy behavior or outspoken behavior, they think that that person is the aggressor in the relationship, that they are the one that is overbearing, and that there is no way. If they heard that that woman is actually a victim of domestic abuse, they just don't believe it. And a lot of the things that I talk about on this channel when we're talking about cases and things. That's exactly the sort of thing. I mean, I've talked about that before. These things that, you know, trying to get people to understand, hey, maybe you're not interpreting things right. You've got to look deeper and have a lot more understanding, and actually go to sources of data and things like that, and don't just make assumptions based on your belief system, which is based on whatever world you live in. You know, if you want to understand other people's worlds, don't just judge it by what you think you know and what you think you would do, or that sort of thing. It's a mistake to do that. Anyone else want to type something, or do you want to type something just to prompt me into anything else? Because I did have a whole lot of things. I should have maybe watched the hour-long video that I recorded trying to talk about this stuff. There's probably stuff on there that I really wanted to say and I haven't. Am I surprised that they found him guilty? I guess no. I kind of was expecting a guilty verdict. Do I think it's do I think they had a strong case and that it's safe from appeal? Not really. And do I think it is very good of people who are trying to get the jury members to approach them and talk to them while there's a gag order on? No. Yes, hey, wouldn't it be great? But, you know, we get to see in Laurie Vallow's trial and Chad DeBell's trial. Oh, these are still ongoing. Well, Laurie's got her Arizona trial coming up, but I think she wants to represent herself. But yeah, we all want to know. We did get to see in the part, like, it's been very surprising when you get to listen to the jurors afterwards. It can give you a lot of faith in the system and in human beings as you know, playing the role of juror as a good citizen, taking it seriously, the emotional intelligence that they can possess and show to you. And I know Mark Klein, $4 million. $4 million. Look, that isn't actually a large number, but for a little county like Carroll County with, you know, 20,000 people, a lot of them snowbirds if they're in a certain niche there, who take a lot of their wealth out of the country, out of the county, you know, down to Florida or even Mexico. Oh yeah, so that's another thing. Delphi, the town itself, okay? Now, you look at find a small town anywhere in the world, and you look at that town under a microscope. You look at the lineages, you know, the generations that live there, so the history in the families. Look at the industry. Look at everything under a microscope. Yes, darling. One moment. Yes, darling. Oh, God, it's too big. He's too big. Oh, I'm on too small a chair to sit with you. Poor little weirdo. Susan, yeah, poor little thing. Look at Delphi, right? So you've got it's just so ripe for abuse by ghouls. Okay, so he is a big boy. Lie down, Bubby. Oh, okay, okay. One family that people talk a lot about because, how can I say? So look, in Delphi, you've got, for number one thing, okay, people disparaging Delphi, talking about what it's a shit little town, what's there, who'd want to go there, who'd want to live there. You know nothing. Delphi is an area very worthy of saying, very worthy of restoration, very worthy of input and energy of all these legacy families and of anyone living there. It is invaluable as a place to visit for many, many reasons, and it produces a lot and it gives a lot. So not only is it exceptionally beautiful with areas that are trying to be saved, you know, you've got famous names there like Weaver, but you know, you've got the Niche Land Trust, right? Niche is, there's a little part off the trails there, that is the Niche Land Trust, which is one of these families is involved with. It's been operating since 1995. You know, and other historical societies and societies trying to save and preserve the land, and people think, oh, this is the rich people wanting. They get, number one, they say, oh, you know, they killed because they wanted Ron Logan's land, like that's how they're going to get it. No, they want to do it by agreement, by negotiation, by, it's not about saving things for the rich, or it's about actually making areas accessible to the public so that citizens, people can enjoy, can experience, can find that peace and that wonder in the beauty that they've got there. They've got all these amazing trees. There is a maple syrup industry there. It's like the running of the sap, which just so happens to be done in February, in the middle of February. So it's that sugar sap industry. There's a few families that operate that. They sell it at Monticello and Delphi farmers markets. The farmers markets are so rich with produce, beautiful produce, and obviously it's been sent far and wide as well. But this is an area that is known for luxurious gourmet foods, just beautiful foods and things. The type of trees that are there, they've got these really special areas that go from water up into woodlands, and those marshland areas, these are really special, and that's amazing. I thought you were up north somewhere more, but yeah, oh lovely. It's kind of like I've shown you here, but the sort of more the salt flats going into mangrove and all the woodlands and everything. But you get this really special flora and flora. They've got, you know, the special, the bird life, the mushrooms, the wildflowers, you know, the trees, the Sugar Creek, probably named because of the tree sap, you know, this maple syrup. Sugar Creek, Deer Creek, you've got Wabash River, you've got the Wabash Erie Canal. It's come from Ohio all the way through. That is so special. And the Wabash Erie Canal Society, you know, they've got charge of a 3-mile stretch of that. And yeah, you know, and it's for the good of everyone, and that's how they want, that's what these societies are really about. And it's this, you know, so a lot of those societies, like this, so the Wabash Erie Canal, that's set up in 74, I think, by Roseland and Thomas McCain and a whole lot of other people. Obviously Dan McCain is still working hard, involved with that. Delphi is, it's abhorrent to people that how dare they spend $1 million doing up the Opera House, and they hate that there's this ballpark. It's like they want something, there's so much hate, they want it to die, and they've got so much contempt for something. But it just is making a great place to visit for people to go bring their RVs or their tents to go camping and to go kayaking, to go foraging, just to enjoy nature. November is, the deer culling, so you've got hunters using the land and the areas. You've got, obviously, Hoosier Harvest Store exists because there's a lot of crop growing in the area. There used to be a thriving furniture business. There's no longer, but it's now the pork processing plant. So, millions of pigs are slaughtered, probably weekly. I couldn't tell you the number. It's so many tons of meat. Lake Michigan. Oh, you're up in that. Oh, that's nice. Lovely place. Chicago's on Lake Michigan, isn't it? But there's so much there. It has got so much value, and it has, why do you think the towpaths exist? It's all because of the industry, from the quarries, so that horses can drag things along in those waterways. They walk along the towpath, and there's kilometers and kilometers of it, and people go, they visit there especially for this. It's absolutely beautiful. So anyway, it's so, and then, you've got the family. So there's one family that they have a sugar industry, and I think it's what some people like to say, hey, that's the shack. That processing place is the shack. There's a photo by, let's just call him PC, on the 15th of February of the foundations of the bridge all crumbling and going, ooh, that's a problem, and okay, that's the day you think, wow, the 15th, would you be making a different sort of post on your Facebook that day rather than this, right? But, people read a lot into it. Oh, the bridge, remember that, all that money for fixing the bridge? And they would say that this is why the girls were killed and everything. I think there had already been secured $700,000 for this bridge. That pylon eventually was fixed, and then later again it was sealed over to the halfway. It's going to be completed, and then the private land, there's that private access way on K's, and apparently they broke some of the Stations of the Cross when they were surveying that out or something like that. But it's a whole loop across one side of the river and back, and the creek, covered bridges are big around there. Festivals, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing too, you see, the sugar is running, the sugar's being done mid-Feb, okay, and so a lot of the times this person was posting, PC was posting, was, mid-Feb, on the 15th, on the 13th, on the 14th. They stopped that after a while, maybe, yeah, I don't know. But then that same family has someone who works at a place that the psychic sleuth was trying to tell people Richard Allen parked at. And, you look at all these coincidences and you think, wow, no, nothing's a coincidence. And you could look at any small town and make up this big story about it, right? It's interesting that Rick Allen, in 2006, he moved there. 30 minutes from you, okay. No, isn't it the bridges of Madison County, though? Is Madison County in Indiana? That's got the covered bridges. 2006, yeah. So Rick Allen moves there, him and Kathy and his daughter, buy their place in Whiteman Crescent or Drive, 1960 or whatever it is, Brown County. And, sorry, spit it out. The first thing he learns about is the bridge, okay? Because with his work, he takes part in this clean up the trails day, and he discovers the way to get into the trails from the mayor's entrance. That's where they parked. He learned about that area. He met Dan McCain. He got interested in the trails right from the start, and it was so interesting, people that, yeah, he was in contact with right from the start, and the knowledge of that area that might even have been before what he calls the old farm building was pulled down. Now, we are assuming CPS means Child Protective Services, but as I've said it before, it's actually listed in some old maps as, you know, sometimes it's called old farm building, but CPS, I think there's some sort of the crop, something to do with, you know, the administration of the area, like in New Zealand, for example, if Sticky's still here, you know, we've got Cattypack, for example. It's the big body that, you know, manages a lot of the crops and the management of rules and regulations and things like that. And there's a big packaging plant and things. And it would be similar in Delphi, where you've got Hoosier Harvest Store. Well, now it's called the Delphi U Store, and Hoosier Harvest Store, tricking all the people that aren't OGs, is actually up around on the 500 North, in the area of the ballpark now. So they go, how could he have driven past there? You know, they know nothing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's possible that it was actually the not the Child Protective Services at all, but and I had this in my mind. Someone who can Google right now could find it. It's the county, or it's the Crop something Society, the Crop I can't remember. And I thought, yeah, you would call that the farm building or the farmer's building. Yeah. And I mean, he just did not describe walking from town down that main street, you know, past any of the landmarks that you would expect to say, noticing that, you know, he would have been saying that he saw completely a lot more people, but he describes a journey that just starts to go to the Freedom Bridge, not coming through town to get there. And I'm sure if he calls it the farm building, I've seen it on maps as the farm building or the old farm building. There is an actual old Farm Bureau building down near Deer Creek Township, northwest. Oh, now I'm all muddled up with my upside down, but down on the opposite corner to where the bridge is. So just say you've got town, you've got the bridge, and, you know, cemetery, Ron's, going back over here. It's over down here, and he would have come around past it as he drove around to go up to park at the old CPS building. And there's the Farm Bureau building there. It's not the Farm Bureau Insurance building, which KC works at, the daughter of PC, who took the photo on the 5th, posted that on Facebook on February the 15th, 2017, of the bridge. But, you know, here's the guy that walks past Kelsey in the cafe interview that Renner does, the 3D video. His name's Pat. you know, very old established family there, you know, generations in the area. People find it so hard to believe that folk want the best for their town, you know, the town they live in, that they want to leave a legacy, that they want to leave things better, that they want to preserve things and make sure things are accessible and enjoyable, and that industry can carry on, and that people can continue to be successful. You know, I think when you're a troll that lives in a New York City apartment with your father, it might be very hard to understand the love and affection and the dedication people have, and you know, for their town. And you might start thinking that there is this huge conspiracy, and that, you know, the town gladly sacrificed 2 little girls so that they can keep being prosperous, or whatever it is that they're saying. There's 1,000 things they say. But you know, I'm not saying I don't have questions. I'm very dissatisfied. Very, very dissatisfied. I'm dissatisfied that Kelsey German's phone wasn't just taken instantly off her. Same with all the family members. They should have done that just for the sake of getting data and making sure that people understood timeline properly, because of course, you know, when people are saying, oh, 1 o'clock, 1:37, this, that, the other, yeah, it gets a little bit, it's easy to be flummoxed. And I know that, you know, folk like Gray will say, what's there to be worried about? Well, if a man is on trial for the murder of it, don't you think you should show that? Since that is the modern world that we live in, and it's a possibility. Yeah. What else, guys? But yes, you know, so Delphi, because of its very nature, its special nature, its specialness, people take that specialness and they want to, ruin it. But there's been so many twists and turns, and the thing was that there never should have been these tentacles. There never should have been people going, you know, because someone coming forward, he was only the 71st person or something to contact. That's not a lot, and if it had just been done properly from the start, you know, assuming that he is the perpetrator, you know, none of this would have happened. But I guess they still would have had to investigate Anthony Shots, Kegan Kline, Tony Kline, you know. No reason why that could have kept going and we had an arrest of someone that's killed these girls. And instead, because that hasn't happened, it's allowed for all the bullshit, you know. And I think people don't realise how much there is at stake for someone like, say, Barbara McDonald, who really put her money on Logan. And remember this mug? Put her money on Logan and was responsible for utter lies that again fed the girls to make, you know, and they just go out and they infect the general population who are watching videos and just soaking it all in and thinking that they are in the company of greatness. She's the one talking about the bullet not being found. I mean, yeah, it's a question. I don't know, is it a question? Why it's not on the search warrant? I actually think that was a tactic.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Ron Logan's search warrant that Nicole Robinson of the FBI developed. I think that, when you leave out information because you need to have something up your sleeve, it's enough that they're going to look for guns, okay? Surely there would have been a way around it where, okay, now we've found the gun, now we're going to go back and, we're going to get the bullets or whatever, get the cartridges from Logan's. But you always hold something back, right? They didn't want to, maybe they just needed to hold that information back, that they had found a cartridge there on the first day, on the 14th, on the day that they found the girls, they found the cartridge. Barbara McDonald, whether she kind of believes her source or not, or whether she's just, so fucking lost and warped that she didn't care. She says it with such conviction too, and people, because they heard it from Barbara, they say, no. So, 4 days later, and wasn't it Liggett that was out there with his metal? It was just people, it was random people with a metal detector because the scene was open and, it's bullshit. The branches should have been taken, but you've got to remember, they thought they were going to sew this up. They have limited resources. They can only do something like 16, they can only test so much. They should, yes, wouldn't they? You'd love them to have endless resources, and in fact, they've ended up spending $4 million. They wouldn't have needed to. Well, they still would have had a trial, but maybe that would have happened in 2018. But just nonsense. It's just nonsense. So the FBI, they got the search warrant to Logan's, found that his guns were different caliber. Sticky says, I think if Alan had remained silent, it would have been a different trial, or any trial. Libby's video prompted everything. It did. It's in way McClelland wrapped that up, saying, Libby always wanted to solve crime, and she did, her own and Abby's. No, that's right. Without that, and without that image being released, Alan never would have come forward. Because if he thought he had been seen and recognised, he had plausible deniability. Especially if he didn't actually have his phone there, he didn't need to say anything, and he would have just said, no, that wasn't me that you saw, and they would have had nothing. But it's because, so he abducted and killed the girls on the 13th. For all anyone knew that knew the girls, they were just missing. They had run away, they had hopped in a car, they had walked into town, they were hiding at a friend's, whatever, right? No one was looking for bodies. If you, so, and then on the 14th they're found. On the 15th, I know it's 7:30, it was on TV. That image was on TV. That's the timeline. On the 16th, the very next day, Alan has called the tip line and said, oh, hey, I was there. He doesn't know if he's caught on a trail cam or someone else's camera. Maybe he thought he was caught on, he doesn't know, right? But now he's thinking, okay, so if the people that were there say they saw me and now there's this image, now that's the dilemma, isn't it? Just lost thing for a minute. Are you there? Let me just try to, there we go. Got rid of that thing that was there in front of my face. Do you think that the jury asking to see some interview, was it the one where Kathy goes in and says to Alan, you didn't tell me you were on the bridge. Now, I know, like, for example, I think I saw the wonderful, lovely Ivy Rose say once in the comment recently, oh, if my husband said, oh, you know, I was on the trails, I might assume that includes the bridge. But I don't know. I think if you said, oh, well, I went for a walk on the trail, you know, I've told them that. That's avoiding saying, hey, I was on the bridge, because you don't want them putting those things together. The image on the bridge of bridge guy, the person thought to have abducted Libby and Abby and yourself, right? So it's lying by omission. And I wonder if that swayed the jury as well, you know. Hey, you didn't tell me you were on the bridge. You said you're at the trail, but you didn't say you're on the bridge. I wonder if that's something to do with them believing his confessions. So yeah, he'd have to come forward, I guess, just hope that it just, and it did, it played out beautifully, didn't it? It just all went away. And then he just kept stum. He never said another word. Never said another word. To colleagues, to all those people at the bar. Maybe he never ever talked about it with his mother. And yeah. And that's not normal. That's not normal. Maybe, okay, so maybe he thought, oh shit, you know, I'm really I don't want to bring attention to myself. I didn't do it. I've done my due diligence. I've gone to the police. I've said I was there. I don't want the public to know this. They're going to really judge me. And obviously, they probably would have. But it was handled so poorly. There, you've got a lead. So what if you think he's short or he's meek or he's whatever? How small-minded. Anyway, yeah, the Doolin effect strikes again. All right, well, that's an hour, 57 minutes and 33 seconds of just me blathering. So, yeah, but yeah, without that video and without it surviving, without it maybe being put in the shoe. See, I was misunderstanding. I thought it was the shoe and then the camera was in the shoe and then that was under Abby. But apparently it was the phone, the shoe was covering the phone and then Abby was on top of that shoe. Just the small of her back. Yeah. What a thing. Possibly a lot of the jury deliberation was deciding felony murder and murder, says Sticky. Like, do you think deciding to find guilty on the murder charges, not just the felony murder? And yeah, again, it was probably his confessions that did that. If he had never confessed or anything, perhaps maybe prosecution would have somehow have made a case for him being bridge guy. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised, but maybe it was because he's mentioned a weapon. And that's another thing that annoys me. You know, people that, it's like they actively, you know, purposely misunderstand. And then people that can't think for themselves and don't take a little beat to try and understand, they just repeat, you know, the repeaters. So what wasn't said was this was created by a serrated implement. They were saying that the wound had a serrated effect to it, you know. And of course people are running with it saying a box cutter isn't serrated, so therefore it wasn't Ellen, or someone else was there with a serrated knife, or I wonder what weapons of his they tested, that they thought, what knives of the many, many knives that he had. I wonder which ones they thought, hey, this could have done the wound, or if they were looking at them going, there's a lot of weaponry here, but none of these look like they could have caused those wounds. Did they take box cutters from Ellen's? I know he says he discarded it in the CVS dumpster, which kind of makes sense. I quite believe that that's something that would happen. But yeah, it's a serrated wound, not a serrated knife. But yet, this is one of the, this is what they're calling, like, and the way they talk about exculpatory evidence, and then they say that the third-party witnesses, like third-party people like Brad Holder and everything, is exculpatory. They're so manipulative. Oh, that's not exculpatory. ALM, I think that says, kudos to the jury for getting it right. I'm looking forward to reading the court transcripts at some point. They should take maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks, probably closer to 5, 6 weeks. It's a lot. And I'm not sure, I think the first people to request it, or to want to receive it first, they might have to pay for that to be done. And then, of course, once that's done, you can apply and just get them for free. They've already been, the work's already been done, but it's got to be, they want their charges recouped in the first instance. Because I know from Madeline Soto's murder case, Plunder and Grey Hughes and the docket paid money to get the translations done or get the transcripts done. But then once they're done, people are going, well, they're free. Why are they saying that they had to pay for them? Well, if you were the first ones to request them and were willing to pay, you would have paid for them. It's just everyone else gets lucky. Web Sleuth has Megan Connor on at the moment, or coming up. She's always a good guest. Yeah. But I think everybody is. It's really frustrating. I'm someone that needs to hear it for myself. I want to see it, hear it. I want to be able to interpret things myself, analyze things myself. I don't like relying on people. I mean, because Bob Motta, when he's reported things, he's said things absolutely differently and very biased in the way that maybe, but then you hear 3 or 4 other versions of it, and he's just telling porky pies. Yeah. So, I think, yeah, it's a lot. And, but wouldn't it have been nice? We should have had the audio so that we can all just listen from one true source, no matter what it is. Was it Court TV or here, there, and everywhere? You're not interpreting. You're not having to go somewhere and then go somewhere else and go somewhere else. And it's just so, it made it impossible. Unless you were there to see it all, it's impossible. We've got such a small percentage of knowledge about what went on. I'm so, yeah, it's an unsettling feeling, because of course we don't know. We're having to trust. The sticky says, thoughts on civil suits from victims' families. Perhaps they will. Yeah, perhaps they will. I don't know. I've said some things that they could probably think are quite hateful. But yeah, there's certainly things that, now that there's this verdict, they are in a position, if they wanted to, is it Olivia Orr? Is that her name? True Crime Design. the woman living in her father's apartment in New York City. Certainly, because there is precedence too, even before trial, in Koberger's trial case, isn't there, with the Idaho 4 girls, that psychic or whatever, who was she accusing? That she was accusing a university professor. She sued. There's many people. Joe Lewis. Yeah, there's a lot of people. I don't know. What do you think? Yes, Swojo. Crime Night. Oh, it's hilarious, because I've covered the Ramsey case. So John Benet Ramsey's murder on this channel many years ago. I decided to make my series of videos based around the taboo theory. But anyway, Crime Night, yeah, it's got some AI reading out. He's just pulled together garbage from all over the place, and people are going, and it's so funny. They jump into these channels that are actual, Ramsey channels kind of thing, Ramsey case channels, and say, hey, you should go and check out crime. They tell everyone, tell Pat Brown and this, that, the other, go check out Crime Night. It's probably Joe himself. And you just write, are you retarded? I'm sorry, but that is a technical term for someone that is of a particular level of IQ or lack thereof. So you can use it, and sometimes the word is warranted. I mean, just that people are thick. They're actually backwards in their abilities and that, yeah. And sometimes that is just a lack of sophistication. It's they've lived in a certain way, in a certain world of their own, and for their lives, and they've just got a small, small world, maybe, I don't know. Not everyone has a lot of opportunities, and it's, anyway. Anything else, anybody? Before I stop boring everybody. I hope if anyone does try to listen to this later that they do just throw it straight on 2.0. It's actually, I listen to everything on 2.0. Thank you for being here, ALM or LM, I'm not sure what that is, and the Sticky Wicket, and Mark Klein, who is a mod here, and I know Francesca was here earlier. Kit popped in for a while. She's a mod too. If you don't know Kit's channel, well worth checking out. I know there's so many other subjects, but I haven't done this very well at all. I should have just posted that hour-long video. You would have gotten more. It was better, but I just can't bear the upload time and everything. But of course, I don't know. Anyway, thanks everybody. Yes, as Mark Klein says, be safe. Be. You can try and be happy. Happiness in itself, I don't know if that can be a goal, because it's just something that happens along the way. And you have these moments of happiness. What is it? The pursuit of happiness. It's enough just to try to survive sometimes. Yes, I can't. Yes, I just don't. Happiness is like, what the fuck's that? What is it? What is that? It's sort of, I know the word. Yeah, but I don't know. Obviously, how I say it is, we're in the eye of the storm. Okay, so at the moment it's just passing over, right overhead, and you get that moment of calm. But really, we're just halfway through, because we've got this whole palette bullshit coming up, right? Who knows what could happen, okay? the end result, the real end result might be that Richard Allen is free. Or, you know, at least found not guilty. And that's the thing, you know, about this Innocence Project as well. It's not the Innocence Project, it's the Not Guilty Project. There are definitely people on death row. This is a tragedy that should never happen. They're there often because of eyewitness testimony that has put them there, and they're absolutely innocent. Those are the people, yeah, the Innocence Project needs to follow. Those people deserve the Innocence Project. But there are a lot of different groups calling themselves the Innocence Project, and what it is, you know, because lawyers like to lawyer, they like to debate, it's an intellectual challenge, it's a game. And they did this with the Kathleen Folbig case. It was a chance for a lot of experts all around the world to chime in, write papers and show the work and get grants because of it and everything, to prove that Kathleen Folbig is not, you know, a serial killer. She killed her four children, one after the other. And, you know, the Innocence Project, it's often, you know, it's the Not Guilty Project. It's the, hey, how can I lawyer the way out of this, right? That's what that is. And that's what it will be, you know, all about with regards to Richard Allen. Perhaps, I don't know, how could they prove him innocent as opposed to not guilty? Possibly. Except that they have never themselves offered one piece of exculpatory evidence. Now, if you misuse that term, well then that's on you, okay? Exculpatory evidence, okay? Excluding him from being able to have done it. So this is proving that he's somewhere else. And I'm not saying that why should he have to come up with an alibi or whatever, but hey, it would really help, wouldn't it? Sticky says, a quote from John Lennon, "Life is what happens when we're busy making plans." Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Lennon did say that. Yeah. Just trying to think of the song, the name of the song by George Harrison. Anyway, I'm getting really rambly, aren't I? My headache's not improving. I wish this weather would clear up. We've had nothing but really intense thunderstorms, thunder and lightning storms. Storm season's really intense, you know, this year. But I want to go for a swim at the pool and clear my head. And I don't mind swimming in the rain. Doing any exercise in the rain is really nice, swimming in the ocean or anything, but when there's lightning, I really don't fancy being hit by lightning. Hey, I thought of this butterfly, this Mandela effect. I wanted to mention as well. Oh God, I'm losing my mind. See you later, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's just going to be, you know, there's no let up, okay? There's no relief for the families, really. They will get some sense of relief, I think. I have a feeling, you know, the Paddies, they knew of Alan. They just knew maybe of him as an acquaintance of someone or whatever. I think that's really shocked them, but I think we have to expect that in a town of 3,000 people, and they thought at first, hey, the killer is from here, you know, and they were right. They were saying this right at the start, and oh my God, so frustrating. But, you know, I think it was just highly likely that it would be, hey, a friend of a friend, or, you know, that doesn't, it's not surprising. I don't think that's telling. I don't think that's a gotcha moment or like anything like that. I think they would have been thoroughly shocked. It would have hurt whomever it was, but to have some sort of tinkling that it truly was a townsperson, and maybe someone who was friends with someone who was friends with someone, you know, well, the wife, I doubt. See, I don't think Rick Allen really had friends. I think he had people that they socialised together, doing their activities, darts, pool, you know. But, you know, I think his people were his family, and that was it. I do think he's an odd, yeah, I don't know. I think I think he had some sort of camaraderie with people, and at times might have had a lightness to his being that lubricated him socially. But I think it seems that Kathy was that social lubricant and was in that role of normalizing him. And oh, oh hi Mel. Oh my God, this is just the people that have stuck this out. They really are suckers for punishment. Good on them. This is too hard. I just can't do lives anymore because it's so hard. I'm not good at it to sit here, and because I don't have tools to show, you know, so I'm not bringing up pictures and entertaining people with, you know, and having a slideshow. I don't even have my PowerPoints like Tom Webster, who's magnificent with that. So that it's just a mess. It's just been me blathering on about a few. You do so well though, because you were my opposite. You were so collected. You are you're very calm, and you know, yeah. I'm a hot mess, but it would be good if you want to, because I know too that, you know, I mean, I think we can meet somewhere in the middle, because I know that I'm someone who I don't get along with as many people. I'm a lot more of a harsh judger, and you know, I'd have to just, because there's a lot of people that, you know, I really can't, what am I trying to say? I'm not in good terms with, or I wouldn't be, or I shouldn't be, you know what I mean? And you are. I'm not as open like that because, yeah. Anyway, it would be good to have a chat about it though. How are you? I was just saying, we're in the eye of the storm. Does that make sense? You know, we've gone through the 7 years, but then we've gone through this court case, and it's, you know, it's not over by a long shot. We've just got this bit of calm for a while, probably actually until Christmas, and the transcripts come out, and then it's all going to kick off. Yeah, but no. I was just saying I'm quite dissatisfied. I kind of knew it would be guilty. Don't know why. I wasn't quite sure if it would just be felony murder charges. Quite surprised that there were the 4 charges. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Do you know, I am getting better at, I can really pick them now. I can pick them pretty much right from the start now. I recently posted someone's channel who's, yeah, I used to get sucked in. And actually, you know, there are people that I've really enjoyed their content. It's really sad because because what they do is they're very crafty. They're very crafty. They watch the little line that they walk. And I used to promote, you know, I loved Angie's videos she'd make on her RMM channel. She's a talented creator. She'd make these really compelling, entertaining videos, and, you know, but of course, you know, things just shoot off, don't they? And I'm getting better at picking them right from the start before that. point of difference is why, yeah. Oh, thank you. I know, I mean, this can get frustrating. There's only so, I mean, I just say so much in comments. I used to actually not comment as much, and I'd make a lot more just little short form videos, you know, in response to things. And I think that was probably better. I think that was better in a regard. I don't do that now. And sometimes I've quite surprised myself with the revelations that I've had, but they've lost. I've wasted it. I've wasted it on someone's channel, you know, in a comment section somewhere instead of making a video. But yeah, so yeah, you've seen the light in some people, Mel. It's very uncomfortable when that happens, isn't it? Particularly, especially if you feel like, I'm not saying that you do feel this way, that you maybe feel like they've used you a little bit, you know. There's a lot of manipulative people on here. There's a lot of Machiavellian people on here, notwithstanding going as far as some of the people that are truly sadistic and sociopaths, and those are hopefully the ones that are going to get sued, whether or not, you know, there's any money in it for anyone suing them. But yeah, they hide it well, some people, you know. And it's a shame too. I think there's some people that have absolutely ruined their channels over this case because they threw in with the knot and, you know, that sort of crowd. And it's a shame because they're very good presenters. They have a good channel. They used to be very welcoming. There used to be a great vibe. They covered great cases, and then now they've just become lunatics. And then there's the really shifty, cunning ones, which are probably the ones that you're talking about, who actually take the time to be really manipulative. Anyway, yeah, were you expecting the verdict, Mel, of guilty? Sorry guys, 2 hours of talking. I just can't go any longer without having some. This is Perfect Potion Aphrodite Lip Tint. That's nice and moisturizing. Feels better. Mel says, that's what I'm feeling. Was I just so blind because I wanted to be blind, or am I just a moron? You're definitely not a moron. Because you're an open-minded person who understands that there are all sorts of different people in the world. You want to understand things from an intellectual standpoint, and you know to do that, you know, you want to take in a lot of points of views and, you know, run them through your sieve and see what comes out the other side. And because you want to respect people of different lifestyles and ways and wiles and things like that, you know, it's probably why you've maybe not seen, you've explained things away and made excuses for people, maybe because of just a few things that you could agree on with them. But a lot of people have been very, just sneaky, sly, cunning in who they use and abuse, or, you know, because it suits them, for their own, anyway, I'm not saying this very well. And I think I have a suspicion about one of the people that you might be talking about. If I said, was it someone that did a really hilarious voiceover for some propaganda? Maybe. Yeah, and there's a lot of, like, I'm a very acquired taste and I'm quite a little weirdo, and I have problems getting on with people, or, people have to really know me and like me and accept me to understand me and to make allowances for certain things that, could be taken many terrible ways, but it's not really, it's hard to explain. And, but there's certain crowds that I just feel I just will never connect with, and I'm an outside. And I kind of stopped watching Jay's True Crime Recliner channel because of that. I just don't fit with people that have a certain way of lifestyle and culture. The sticky limit wicket, that's the definition of a limited hangout. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have been working sort of underground for a while with the Innocence Project, shall we say, and yeah, they weren't open about that, and then you find out that that's what they've been doing all along, and it kind of, when you reflect back on things, you realize how deceptive they've been. But yes, we should definitely, because it is so much easier just to have a conversation. You spark things off. It creates an energy, and the topics can evolve, and you can, yeah. So it'd be really good to. Was it a song with a written with a written message at the end? Ooh, that wasn't immediately what I was thinking. But now I'm thinking, oh. No, it wasn't. It was kind of this propaganda speech where it's still bringing up, race betrayers, race traitors. Now I'm going to be thinking, yeah, I mean, I try and be really prepared and know some angles that I can talk about. I try not to bring your live stream down, try not to swear too much, things like that, even though I'm, yeah, but that would be good. I wonder when would be a good time to do so. And like, for example, it's 2:00 here in the afternoon. So is it like 11:00 at night there or something, roughly where you are? Like, time-wise, day-wise? And just sort of what sort of angle you would want to discuss. But there's so much to discuss anyway, but I don't want to be like a broken record, because I've said, things over and over again. I'd want to be interesting. Yeah. Yes. I'm trying to think now what you mean, but that's all right. Anyway, no, that would be an honor. It would be so good, and of course too, yeah, we can have a little bit of a remembrance of things that have gone on in the past that are a bit sad. No, unalived, that just gets my goat. Things like that, and those people that say, "Oh, we're going by YouTube's rules." No, you know what? You're going by them because of the money side of it. It's not that you can't say it. I say it. I am so censored. Did you know one day YouTube I logged in and I had totally different figures. I had, was it 2059 or 2590 subs? Not the 1600 that I've been on for 3 years. They say that I've had the same number, maybe goes up to, down to, up to, down to. You know how there might be so many comments but it says that there's 3, but you know there's 21. That sort of crap. I am just completely black booked, and then I can't remember. I clicked off and I went back on. It was back to showing the other figures, but it showed a whole lot of different numbers. Yeah, I know. Unalived is so disrespectful, and it's not telling this. It just simply doesn't tell the story, and we shouldn't fuck with language like that. It's like saying, oh, I won't even get into that, you know, but there's ideologies behind everything. I know we're on a platform. This isn't, you know, it's not the wide world, so it's a private platform. It's not free speech. People that come in and go, oh, you know, I can say anything. Why can't I say anything? Why are you censoring me? And they're saying this on YouTube. It's like, you're on a platform where there are rules. This isn't America. It's not, you know, it doesn't stand here. But yeah, on my channel obviously it does, and on yours too. Yeah. But yeah, I was just saying at the start, I was looking at some of Michael Catt's videos and looking at one of his, I'm just going to repost it. I might do that this afternoon. The last video he made of Figaro, his little dog, Figgy, going for a walk, and it shows Michael's humour, you know, yeah. Anyway, did I ask you, did you expect a guilty verdict? Yeah. I mean, I'm not satisfied with it. I'm not satisfied with the events being laid out. I'm not satisfied with the data. Yeah. Do I think he did it? Yeah, I do think that he's some sort of creep. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll say goodbye. Or if you have a live soon and I see you, I really missed your last one. I just was too, I would have hopped on, but I think I just came in at the end of the last one you were doing. Anyway, thank you everybody that's been here or might put themselves through watching, and yeah, look out on Cold Truth. Maybe when the transcripts are out, you can do some readings of them or something too. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna press the X, okay? Oh, I'm gonna attempt to press the X.